What's going on, everybody? Welcome back to the channel. My name is Murph, and today we're going to talk about some skill characters. So, with these Scourges out, we now got 3 of the 4 total Scourges, or Scourge wings that are out, and we now obviously know 75% of the current traits that are required for it. So, if you're having some difficulties with the current War Scourge that is out right now, I'm going to be releasing some videos over the next week or so, and kind of pre-recording them today, and this is Saturday, and putting it out throughout the week. So I will be on vacation this week, but I do want to get information out to you guys to potentially help you out. But we're going to be looking at like what characters are best to build for what traits, and more or less from the lens of when you build these characters, how will you be able to use them in other Scourges? Because we don't like we can just build very strong characters that are good for a one-off kind of Scourge run, but if we're a lower level account and we're having difficulty clearing these Scourges, we do want to put ourselves in the best position possible to be able to succeed in all the Scourges. So we're going to be looking at skill characters today, and as a short caveat to that, it's going to be skill hero characters because villains, as their villains are used in all 3 of the current Scourges that are out right now. I'm going to do a separate video covering just villains themselves. So I'll mention some villains briefly at the end of the video, but we won't go too in depth with them. But without further ado, I'm going to take you guys under the hood and kind of show you guys how we're looking at these characters. This is kind of what I'm using to weigh how we're looking at characters, right? So we got Pestilence, right? Pestilence here. Why is this? Hold on a second. Let me fix this display capture. There we go. All right. So Pestilence. Nodes 1 and 2, you got hero. Nodes 3 and 4, you got villains. Nodes 5, right? You kind of see how this is self-explanatory. You've got your Scourge wing, you've got your nodes, and then you've got the traits for the nodes. So what I kind of did to go through this, and what I'm kind of weighing this by is, one, are these characters viable characters outside of Scourge, or are they only good in Scourge? 2, how many times, or what I'm looking for. How affluent are they within the Scourges, I guess? How many different nodes can you do with them? How many actual Scourge wings can you do? So, for instance, Punisher, you can run him in Pestilence. You can run him for nodes 1 and 2 for heroes. You cannot run him for villains, Web Warriors, Global, Cosmic, right? He doesn't fit any of those tags. Punisher, you can use him for City as well. So you can use him in Famine. And he also has a skill tag. So you can use him in War. So what that means is Punisher can be used for all 3 Scourges. Now, is Punisher an amazing character outside of the Scourges? No, not necessarily. He's been a bit power crept in the game, but he does have some niche use in kind of like this anti-villain role. He gives bonuses to your characters to fight villains. So, you can plug and play him in certain nodes like nodes 1 and 2 here. So that's kind of how we're looking at characters here, right? So character number 1, we're going to talk about ShangChi here. So he is an amazing character all around. He's primarily, his main game mode is going to be the war mode, right? With heroes for hire. So war defense. But to start off with, you can use him in Pestilence for the heroes tag. You can use him in Famine for the city tag, and you can use him in Death for a skill tag. So this let me back up because this video is centered around the War Scourge, right? So this is all about building skill characters. This is only for skill characters. I'm going to release a different video for each trait for this Scourge and talk about what other Scourges, what other game modes characters are viable for. And then that way, if you're struggling with a specific, pairing of nodes, you can go ahead and reference these characters and build them, because that's what I'm currently doing. Is I'm struggling with skill, so I'm building these characters out. I actually just got ShangChi to gear 13 this week on this account. It was kind of a long time coming. It was in the works for a long time. I just never had a moment to build him up, and I never had a need for it, and I certainly needed it now. So here we are. You got ShangChi. Again, you can use him in Pestilence, Famine, and War. That is a huge bonus. We don't know what the death traits are yet, but you can use him for all 3 of the current Scourges, which means you build him, you're going to get use out of him in all the Scourge game modes. Build him. Again, he's part of Heroes for Hire, which is a war team, and he's also part of your skill raid team, so for the Doom raids. And he pairs up with like Secret Avengers and Kestrel, and is just fucking phenomenal. Now, you want to run Raider on him because he crits like a motherfucker, and his his abilities are just fucking incredible. So let's go ahead and take a look at his ISO abilities. Or his ISO abilities, his actual abilities in tier 4s. As you can see, his tier 4 abilities, it's got a high percentage on his passive here. So let's start with this. At the start of any war, this character is on defense. We're not worried about war, right? Um, but on this character or any ally crit, gain 1 deflect up to a maximum of 5. While this character has deflect, gain 15% crit chance and 10% block amount. So basically, when he crits, he's going to get deflect. When he gets deflect, he's going to have a higher crit chance, and it's just going to keep going up. So that's why you want to run radar on him. Higher crit chance, higher crit damage. On war defense, we're not worried about any of that. Now, this tier 5 is going to be what pushes his crit chance 20% and block him up by 10% for heroes for hire, allies with deflect and self. So great. But what I would recommend putting on first, personally, is Way of Fury. This attack is going to be what gives you the most bang for your buck in Scourges and everything else, and Dark Dimensions, whatever. So essentially, this attack, what it does is you target whatever character has the most buffs. And honestly, I haven't been able to confirm it yet, but I have a sneaky suspicion that it also counts for negative effects, even though it doesn't say negative effects here. But basically, it's going to attack all enemies for 450% damage, plus 75% additional damage per positive effect from the primary target. So basically, you're going to target whatever character has the most amount of positive effects on the enemy team, hits its ability, and he's going to just jump around the field hitting everybody, and it does massive, massive fucking damage. And it's going to also reduce their speed bar by 10% and apply speed up to him to all like heroes for hire allies, but we're not really using heroes for hire in Scourge. Cannot be counterattacked, blocked, or dodged. So like dodge up, all that shit, it'll hit through it. I think the only way it doesn't hit is if he's actually blinded. So this is not like 100% tier 4 this ability. Other ones, this is actually a pretty good tier 4 to put as well. Deadly Hands. What this does is it hits the primary target, hits the two, adjacent, it hits two, or is it? No, it's all adjacent targets. So it's technically a cleave, right? But what it does is it's going to hit all of them, apply counterattack to yourself, as well as give yourself a speed boost, filling speed bar by 50%. So typically what I like to do is you open up with this, because it's a turn 1 ability. Turn 2, you use this, and you basically get 3 fairly quick attacks in rapid succession. Massive character, build him. So next up on the list, we got Kestrel. Kestrel is one of the original characters that MSF created. I believe the second one, because I think Deathpool came out first. She's currently farmable in the, well, not farmable, but she's a premium orb bonus character, so you have bonus percent chances to get her shards when you open a premium orb. So she's semi-farmable, like in the sense that just over the lifespan of the game and playing the game, you will unlock her eventually, but you can't really target farm her. She's a great combination of skill and tech. And another thing I didn't mention about these skill characters is you can pretty much safely invest into any skill characters at the moment, because there's no confirmed or needed skill characters for the actual like horseman teams or for the Apocalypse Saga. So getting back to it, I like running Striker on her. She's just a heavy hitter, and you want to enhance her damage as much as possible. Now, when we talk about tier 4 abilities, tier 4, you really can't go wrong with tier 4ing all of her abilities. If you look at the MSF GG stats, it's not the greatest thing to go by, but essentially, her passive is going to give her charge and offense up. On turn, you're going to heal for 10% max health. And if you're charged, and if any enemy attempts to summon or clone this match, it's going to clear charged and believe it kills that enemy, right? Yeah, so while charged, enemies cannot summon or clone. Great ability, especially if you have like a Nick Fury or Maria Hill on the enemy side, or even like a not Zemo, Red Skull, whatever else you got there. I'm not really going to get too much into the rest of her abilities or her kit, because I think that's going to take up too much time with this video. But for reference, Kestrel, you can use her in Pestilence for the heroes nodes, and you can use her in War for the skill. You unfortunately cannot use her for Famine. And what she's good for outside of the Scourge is also she's another member of that skill raid team along with ShangChi. Moving on. So our next character is going to be Captain America Sam. He is currently farmable in the Doom War. I believe it's Chapter 2, like Node 6, if I remember correctly. You want to run Skirmisher on him, and that's just because of the... what was it? I don't remember what the hell it was off the top of my head. I think it's just for all of the like debuff clearing and shit like that, right? Or was it? I don't know. Whatever. Run skirmisher on him. Um, he's part of your Secret Avenger team, so you need him for the Omega Red unlock. You need him for your skill rate team as well, and he's just an all-around very powerful character. Abilities, tier fours you can do, as you can see, you don't really want to focus on his basic, but Stars and Stripes, that's going to be this ability. That's his taunt. It's going to put a bunch of deflects and counterattacks up on him, so he can counter everything. And Freedom Flight and his passive as well can be tier four. Freedom Flight's great because it's going to AoE attack everybody on the field and also provide a huge speed boost, like speed bar fill to all your characters. And he's kind of currently one of my projects that I'm building right now. So next up, we got Maria Hill. This should be your skill healing character. In Scourges, you typically want like one healer per team unless it's a very, very powerful team that can clear everything very quickly. But obviously put healer on her. She's a healing character. She has minion spam abilities, AoE abilities. She's just all around great. She's also a part of your skill raid team and Secret Avengers for the Omega Red unlock. As you can kind of see a pattern here, if you build your skill raid team up, you can use them for skill nodes, and they're great. And one thing that I didn't note or didn't mention in the last one, both Captain America Sam and Maria Hill, you can use in the Pestilence Scourge as well for your hero nodes for 1 and 2. Now, next up here, as you can see, I have not invested in her yet, and that's because I'm getting to the point now where I am getting very strapped for skill gear because I'm very quickly having to build a lot of characters with the same trait, which is typically a problem because you like if you don't have a gold or a training mat, choke on your character, you're going to do a gear choke if you're building too many of the same traits at the same time. So but Sharon Carter, I believe you typically want to run Striker on her, if I remember correctly. She's a pretty hard hitting character. She's got ability block. She's got stun. So maybe you could potentially run Skirmisher on her, I guess. Or no, yeah, Skirmisher could be okay at higher levels when people start getting higher resistance. But she's also gonna be part of your skill raid team, Secret Adventures as well. So you can't go wrong building her for skill. She's also gonna help you unlock Omega Red in the future, and she's gonna cover 2 Scourges. So yeah. Now that kind of rounds out our first tier of characters to build for skill. Other characters you can consider are going to be following here. So Nick Fury is going to be another one that if you have started building him for Omega Red, you can potentially throw him in, but he doesn't bear a whole lot of additional investment. You can kind of use him as a skill raid team fill-in character if you don't have all the 5 typical ones like Shang-Chi, Kestrel, Captain America Sam, Maria Hill, and Sharon Carter. But he's not great. He does have a minion spam ability, but it's not as good as Maria Hills because Maria Hills come with death proof as well. And you can also use him in the Pestilence Scourge as well, so you can use him for Pestilence and War as heroes. That's going to be kind of a common theme for this video. We're really only covering hero skill characters because I'm going to do an entire villains video along with the rest of the skill, mutant, and tech and bio characters as well. But he's typically used as a war defense team with shields, so we don't really care about war. But if you need to, you can invest in him. Now, the next character to talk about is going to be Echo. Echo is great. She just became farmable in the War Store. She's part of Young Avengers, and as Young Avengers, she's going to be part of the War meta. And also, you can use her in Pestilence. You can use her in Pestilence on Heroes nodes, and you can also use her in Famine as Young Avengers because Young Avengers is a required team for the nodes 5 and 10 for Famine. So you can use her in all 3 Scourges so far, just like Shang-Chi. So you can use her for Pestilence for Heroes, Famine for either, or Famine, you can't use her in City, but you can use her for Young Avengers, and then War, you can use her as skill. So you can safely build her. Another skill character you can use for the War Scourge is going to be Okoye. Now, Okoye is a Wakandan character. She's important in Cosmic Crucible, and you can safely use her for skill. However, unless you pair her up with Killmonger, she doesn't have a whole lot of like synergy with any other characters around. But she's a strong character. She's good for Cosmic Crucible. Cosmic Crucible is very important, so you can safely build her and put her in here. And while we're talking about it, another character you can build up for skill, I'd put him in your skill team for the War Scourge, is going to be Killmonger. Now, you can use him and Okoye in the Pestilence, Famine, and War sagas, all 3 of them. They're great for it. The only reason I'm not covering villains too deeply in this video is because most of the villains that are good for skill are also going to be good for villains, and you kind of want to be careful about doubling up on nodes in the same Scourge, because then you really have to make sure you're not losing these characters that you're managing their abilities properly, so that when they leave the first set of nodes you're using them in to go into the second set of nodes, you can actually use them properly, and you're not starting off on your back foot. And the next pairing of characters following that same logic that we're going to talk about is going to be Sif. Or let's going to start with Sif. Sif is another strong skill character. You can also use Sif in the Pestilence Scourge for your cosmic nodes if you have to. Now, bear in mind, she's a Hero's Guardian, which means that while you can use her for your skill nodes in the War Scourge, you may not want to, because you may have to save her for your node 5 and 10 teams for your Heroes Guardians, Wave 1 Avengers, and Ravager teams. But if you decide to use her, you can also pair her up with Valkyrie. Now, Valkyrie is same thing, cosmic skill. You can use her in the Pestilence and War Scourges, and the same considerations will apply for her. However, she does bring a lot of great stuff to the table, like high damage output, some counters, and a stun as well. And our final two characters I'm going to briefly go over are going to be Baron Zemo. Again, same thing as Killmonger. You may not want to use him because you may have to use him for your villain nodes, depending on how strong your villain roster is. But he's going to be great as just a one-off add-in character for your skill team, especially if you're on a node that's dealing with people like Maria Hill or Nick Fury, or they just have minions in general on there. Like, I know those shield troopers are especially annoying during these scourges because they do all those counterattacks and deal a fair amount of damage. And the final one that's going to get an honorable mention is going to be our big guy Kingpin here, our heavy. And this is just because of the Underworld rework that he's recently gotten. I wouldn't personally invest in him because I don't have a whole lot of faith in that team. But you can I think potentially safely build him now. And that's it, guys. That's gonna round out our skill characters for this upcoming War Scourge. So keep an eye out the next couple days. I'm releasing more videos on the other traits. So if you've enjoyed this content, please like the video, drop a comment down below, let me know what you're using for the skill nodes, and subscribe to the channel so you don't miss future videos. Thanks, guys.